How's it going, everybody? This is Will Robson here. You may know me from my work for Marvel DC, or from my own work, which is Outbreaks, and Mobster Mash from my own company, SpeechComics.com. What I'm doing is another portfolio review. I guess it's the first official one in this series, but basically, if you don't know, I have a Patreon, which is right here. You can sign up to it, and there's a Discord on the Patreon, and people that join it are aspiring comic book artists and writers, and they send in their work, and I do reviews, and you have full access to me to answer any questions about the comic book industry, this, that, and the other, because I've been working in it for 10 years. Worked for Marvel, DC, Image, and pretty much every company under the sun. So if you need help with your comic book art or your comic book writing, then that's the place to do it. So on this review today, we have 4 different people. And before we get started, I just want to go over some basic tips that I think cover a wide range of necessities on comic book art that maybe amateurs don't truly know. So up first, I just want to talk about focus with values. Now, what do I mean by that? First of all, let's talk about values. Values are literally just shades of black to white, okay? That's all it is. It's solid black, and if we're doing it with pen, we're not just. Some people use ink wash and stuff like that, but I like to use a solid line. So we have solid black, and then we'd have a gray, which is a bunch of little lines next to each other, and then we would have white, which would be obviously what's inside that object. So that's values, but what we want to talk about is focus with values. It means drawing your eye to where it needs to go, making a clean image for a reader to look exactly where you want them to look. You're in full control here. You want people to look in certain places. If everything is just in one black value, it's going to be hard to see. If everything's in just gray values, it's going to be hard to see. And if everything is in white values, it's going to be hard to see. This is why you might hear a lot of people that do a lot of rendering when they first start, and people say, like, this is really cool art, but I just don't know what's going on. That's because they're doing so much work in the gray that's impossible to see. And I think a lot of amateurs, when they start, I know I certainly did, I do a lot of just in the white with open line work, which is totally fine because, focusing with values can be picked up by a colorist, but, it's best to have this done in the art. So I've got some examples here, which I think are great. This is Frank Miller right here. And what Frank does in Sin City is that he'll use the value of solid black and the value of solid white. These are obviously the opposites of the spectrum. And when you put them next to each other, it makes the most impactful image. So what I would say is that obviously the chair and his legs here being all black, and then just the light hitting his dome piece here makes me automatically look at the head, because there's black is dominant on this and white is less so, because you might think, oh, this is all white here. I know I'm creating a mess with my pen, but this is actually technically gray. And what I mean by that is if you zoom everything out from a distance, let me turn this off, you can clearly see that this is white here. You can clearly see that this is black here, but all of this here is technically gray when you zoom out. So that's the grade there. So that's a good pull of focus there. Let me look at the other options here. Tom McFarlane right here. Obviously, Venom here is mostly black. His white eyes really pop against the contrast of it. Spider-Man's white eyes really pop down here, so you can see both of them. His suit is, I would say, this value, Spider-Man's suit. And then I would say that the background is probably in between these two values, all these little lines here. And then obviously all the rubble and stuff, the lines get darker and darker there. So a good balance of values there. Obviously when you zoom out, you can see your eye automatically goes to the dominant black and the white of his eyes. Because no matter what, I mean, it's human nature for us to look at eyes anyway. That's the first thing we look at. You can get away with a lot of art just if you draw really pretty eyes. I mean, it's a crazy thing. So next up, this is John Romita Jr., we automatically look at this black because there is so much gray here, and it's a huge white background. Perfectly balanced. I think John Romita Jr. is an absolute master of values and storytelling. Please, I know so many people go, he's not good. I think anybody that says that doesn't know what they're talking about. So John Romita Jr. is one of the greatest comic book artists of all time. And here we have Greg Capullo, dominant black, obviously, and you think, oh, but this is all gray, which it is. He's actually not using much white here, but he has Batman dominant black on his mask. So if you look, you can still see Batman. It still pops. And it's kind of like a fun Easter egg, because really what we were trying to look at is that question mark. So that's the power that comes with using values to your aid. It's just something to think about to elevate your art to another level. So that's that. Next, we're going to go to background, middle ground, and extreme foreground. And what I mean by that is, there's a cinematic technique, as you can see these examples below, about using foreground, middle ground, background. But this is comics, so you want to push these planes even further. I mean, the extreme foreground, they always say, in comics, you got to crank everything up to 11 because it's got to be action-packed, interesting to look at stuff. So if you break down background, middle ground, and extreme foreground into values, like we just said, here we see that the foreground is black value, the middle ground is gray value, and the background is white value. And you can see that for all these layers here as it goes on. They're even using an extra gray layer to break that up as well. But they're kind of just saying, look, that's all middle ground too. So try and add this to your panels. So many people, and there'll be examples on the portfolios we review today. So many people put everything on one plane when they first start to draw. They don't think about stuff being in the extreme foreground. Obviously, they do put stuff in the background. But the more you can build this depth, the more you're selling your piece of art, which is drawn on a two-dimensional surface, as something three-dimensional. And that's the whole point of making art, well, comic book art for the most part. Obviously, all these rules can be bent and broken when it comes to style. But yeah, it's very good to do this. So here's some examples from film. The first one is from Citizen Kane. We have Citizen Kane here in the extreme foreground, his buddy in the middle ground, and we have the other guy in the background. So really great balance there. This shot below is incredible with these two guys in the extreme foreground, but we're so focusing on this. This is also thinking about values. If you look here, these guys are gray, arguably black as well. His suit is definitely black. His face, pretty much white. So we are so focused on this guy's face watching them. Again, we got more examples here of a man in the foreground. Middle ground is this machine, and then the background is the people working in the background. Extreme foreground, which is what we want. Middle ground, background, extreme foreground, middle ground, background. So this is what you want to be doing in your storytelling. Now, here's how to take it to an even further level. If you see on this image here, you see these lines going down the image. That is called the rule of thirds. This is a classic cinematic technique used by cinematographers, used by photographers, where what you do is you break down your panel, and it doesn't matter what way the panel is facing. Even if it's a circular panel, you can still break it into these 9 even chunks. This one's not that even. I would have put these further in. And what you want to do is you want to place an object of interest on anywhere where these cross over, or you want to place an object of interest right in the center. You do not want to just have stuff here, though you can bend these rules, and there's a whole subject for studying it. So let's just keep looking down here at these examples. Here we have from, oh my god, I forgot the name of it. Great chess show, really loved it. Can't remember the name of it, but great focusing on her eyes right in this middle. All the cinematography in this show is Queen's Gambit, that's the name of it. All the cinematography in that show is amazing. Here's the image that we showed before. This is what we want to be doing in comics, people. We got foreground, middle ground, background, but he's also in a place where the rule of thirds intersect. So that's just perfect storytelling. And you know why this helps in comics? Because if he's got something to say, this is where you'd put a speech bubble. Hey, la 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 la. There's enough room for another speech bubble here as well. If you have someone sitting in the middle like this, you can still obviously do speech bubbles and everything like that. That definitely works. But it's this type of cinematography works really well. Now, here's a good example of 2 points of interest. But the 2 points of interest are this guy's eyes from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This is the ugly. That is a great way of using the rule of thirds, but on an extreme close-up. And this is something that I think is super important and that I use all the time. Here we have from Pulp Fiction 2 points of interest on 2 different points. So you know how I said there needs to be a point of interest in one of these points? Well, if you have a 2 shot, you can use it like this. Then Jules could be saying something here, and etc. etc. So it's just a really great way to do it. So, again, these rules are meant to be broken. I like to use cinema as examples because I think looking at cinematography is equally as important as looking at comics. Just going back through it again. Focus with values, using values to draw your eye to where you want the reader to look. Using the middle ground, background, middle ground, and extreme foreground. Yes, I did spell foreground wrong there. And rule of thirds, breaking it into 9 even squares, and putting your point of interest where it intersects, or right in the center. And I would Google cinematography or cinema rule of thirds. There are a million amazing examples of used in your favorite movies, from Ratatouille to The Shining. It's used commonly, and I think you should do it as well. Now, if you want to get to an advanced level, this is dynamic symmetry. This is something I've been playing with recently. It's not necessary. You might make yourself go mad with it, but it really helps when you're doing things like covers. I'll just show an example of it. For instance, this is the cover to Outbreaks issue 4, which is coming out April 3rd. Please check out the link in the description of this video. All of my comics that are coming out are going to be linked in the description. I'll plug that again soon. If you look here, let me put the dynamic symmetry over the top of it. So this is how it works. I basically have lines going on these lines to form... it's hard to read. It's hard to do this. Okay, so you see this arm here? You see it's following this line here. This leg is following this line. This leg is vaguely following this line. This piece of film is following this line. Where we got here? The head here from the nose, it's pointing down with it. And the hand is on the opposite of these and stuff. So it's just, if you put stuff like this in this place, it creates a pleasing image. Again, I don't even know why I'm talking about this. This is advanced level stuff, and it's also not necessary. I can prove it's not necessary because you look at someone like Norman Rockwell, who people told him, oh, you should learn dynamic symmetry. And he learned it, and he was like, oh, I don't really care about this, so he just stopped using it altogether. So again, it is not necessary to use dynamic symmetry. Let's get back to the portfolio reviews. So just real quick, again, if you're interested in my comic book work, you could head to the QR codes on the screen right now. Outbreaks issue number 4. That's going to be drawn by Alex Cormack and written by myself, with a backup written and drawn by me, and a Mobster Mash issues 3 and 4, which I'll be fully writing and drawing myself. These are my comic books. These are my passion projects, and I can only make them with your help with funding on Kickstarter. Links to both of these projects will be in the description below. Please sign up to be notified when they launch. Okay, now let's get to the portfolios. So these are people that are in my Discord server that have requested a portfolio review. Up first, we have JB25. Now, JB, I don't know if you've been using dynamic symmetry, but you actually have some going on in this image. If you look, this arm here is going along this dynamic line. The forearm here is going along this dynamic line. Yeah, there's lots of little stuff in here. Look, this his axe is following this line. You're doing the triangle shape already in the image. So I don't know if you use dynamic symmetry or not, or if that's just a happy accident, but that's something to keep in mind. I only think about dynamic symmetry really when it comes to covers, because if you do dynamic symmetry for every single panel, you will go mad. So what I've done is I put the rule of thirds over everyone's drawings just so you can see really what it's like and what you might be missing from your work. This is one, I would say, the best example we have for today. I just wanted to start with this because there's only subtle things that I would change to this. Let me get an ink layer up. So here, if you look what's going on around here, you might be wondering, okay, the light on this character is obviously coming from above. You can see by his shoulders and everything, he's being lit from above. But why is there light being hit here? This is called rim lighting. It means that light is reflecting off of maybe his cape, maybe his knee, maybe his pad, and it's bouncing back up onto him. Or he might be dual lit, and you can use that as a different lighting technique. But for me, that's rim lighting. So the only problem I have here is you've got to go, when it comes to rendering, you're trying to trick somebody into believing that lines can actually create gray. And what do I mean by that? Well, if I do this, I put this here, and I zoom out, it looks like it's fading into black, right? Looks like I'm using a gray pencil or gray wash. Well, I'm just using lines next to each other. And if you start thin and then you slowly make your lines thicker, that is literally creating a fade. So there you go. I use that all the time. That's probably the thing I use the most. Now, the other thing I see missing here is that you're just doing one level. So you want to thicken up some of these lines here so that it looks like it's going into the black. You want there to be a nice fade into these colors. So I just start thickening up those lines that get a bit closer. Also, you're going to want to add variation to your lines. I see that your feathering right now is you're just doing this type of feathering, which is totally fine. There's multiple types of feathering. There is the one you're doing here, which is just using lines to feather. There's the jazz line, which I call it, which is what I use all the time. John Romita Jr. does it. And then there is the sort of that one, which is kind of what Jim Lee uses, where it's like thin to thick on each end. I find if you vary up your renders, you can get way more of an interesting looking piece of art. And make sure that all your renders are always going thin to thick. Don't just go render, 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 render. You want to go render, render, thicker, render, thicker, render, thickest render, thickest render, thickest render into the light. I just find, and you can be as subtle or non-subtle with that as possible. Now, the other thing I noticed is that I just think that your blacks go a little bit too much into the light. I think you could do with breaking them just out of the light a bit more. Like so. This is actually something that I did a lot when I first started. And then the choice of how you want to render like his shoulder hair is up to you. You could do the tiny little ones. Like so. Obviously, that's a very quick way of doing it. You can do my favorite, which is the jazzy ones. And then remember, go thin to thick with stuff. So there's the jazzy ones, or you can do the feathering that you're doing right now. But remember, keep these ones thicker up here. And then down there. Again, that's terrible rendering, but it's just to show a point. You can also, you don't have to just go, like, you can go different shapes here. You don't have to follow exactly the way you do it. The choice is yours. So I would just say, bring something to light. Now, a quick way to do this as well is, like, you've already got all these renders in here. You could just pull in some white lines. I do this all the time on my work when I know that my black's gone a bit too deep. This way, when you zoom out, you can see that it's gone a bit grayer. And then what I would do is I would definitely make this render a bit more subtle underneath. like so. I think, obviously, I mean, as always, your anatomy's great. Your characterizations are fun. I just think what's holding you back right now is your rendering. And, yeah, so try and, like, for instance, your wrappings here. You could easily bring these into the light a bit more, you know? Like so. And then, again, add variation to stuff. Just some renderings on the knuckles, etc. Like for instance, right here, just those 3 lines. Like, try and do some differences. Look at some of your favorite artists and the way they do stuff. You might be surprised. I just think adding all of those variations just makes stuff pop a bit. I see you're doing like the David Finch cross hatch. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think David's really good at it, and he's made it kind of his style. I just, but it's you know what? It's a calling card of his, so it could be for you as well. It's just whatever you find comfortable. Like I said, I like the jazz lines. I think they look cool, and I find they're really easy to do. Remember, I need you to focus on going thick to thin, thin to thick, varying up your line, your render choices, and making sure that you leave yourself a bit more white in your solid blacks. But cool piece. Talking about values, you've made the whole face black here, so I'm looking directly at the face. I love that the cape's black and stuff. There's a great balance of values, and it is in the raw thirds, and it's basically dynamic symmetry. So, great stuff, bud. That's a good one. All right, moving on to Ethan Wilson. So Ethan here is someone who's starting out with art. I kind of really like these render lines. I know they kind of remind me of Mouse or something like that. But obviously for professional, if you want to draw from Marvel and DC, you're most likely not going to be able to do that. So let me just chuck in the rule of thirds here. So now you can see if we were going to make this work more in the rule of thirds and think more about the planes. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, so I might be coughing from time to time. I do apologize. Okay, so what I would do is I would take Beta Ray Bill here and I would make him a lot bigger. Probably in a cooler pose than this. But he should be... Well, actually, you know what? Maybe I would make him even smaller and full body. Because you want the Hulk to be big, right? The other choice would be is you make him looking like that. Oh, excuse me. I do apologize. Okay, I'd probably make him small just to be showing how big the Hulk is. But that's just because I want a middle ground, foreground, background on this. Because right now, all this is middle ground, background. I mean, both of them are practically on the same plane. The best, obviously, the stuff you need to work on, which I'm sure you're aware of, is your anatomy. If you look up here, your bicep is very strange into the shoulder. Just give me 1 second, folks. I'm just going to grab a drink of water so that I'm not choking this whole bloody time. Again. So what happens when you go to Comic-Cons, folks? You catch colds. I just got back from Thought Bubble, which was a lot of fun. Okay. Let's get back to this. So, Ethan. Yeah, your anatomy. If your arm is being raised like this, you see your collarbones here? The collarbone would go up with the shoulder. The shoulder would go up. The bicep would be round because it's flexed. Your pec actually would be pulled. It wouldn't be round like this. It would be pulled to where all these muscles meet, like so, in this area. And then that little muscle that goes into the bicep would be there. And that whole thing would be longer. Also, the muscles that you have on the abs, you just made the classic kid outfit of just drawing an 8-pack on there, where it actually, when it starts at your chest, the line, if I was drawing a center line down him, it wouldn't just go straight down. It actually would curve inwards here because it's his stomach going in, and that's where those muscles would be. And then obviously you've got these muscles here. And since Hulk is exaggerated, he'll have certain muscles exaggerated. You've made this just a big tube. It's a bit more complex than that. And he's got his neck muscles. His shoulder would be popping out way more. And then for some reason, you have the bicep pointing downwards. Here, the bicep would be here, pointing upwards, because you have his hand drawn in this way. And the feet would be much bigger. This is the Incredible Hulk, man. He's got huge feet. So you got to make much bigger feet. And then these muscles would be flexing because he's crouching a bit, so they'll be popping more. And then your hands are coming across very flat. That looks more like you're drawing a symbol of a hand rather than actually a hand itself. So you want to make it feel more three-dimensional. The knuckles of each finger. And not every finger is equal, remember. All of our fingers are different sizes. There'll be different planes to this. You draw them all on the same planes, almost like curved sausages. And they're not sausages, they're more like bricks. So, so you really work on your anatomy. You can see here, like his bicep here. And the shoulder would be up here. Tricep here. That hand is tiny there. You need to work on your figure drawing anatomy. Now, where's the best place to do that? That would be Michael Hampton's Guide to Figure Drawing Design and Invention, or just Michael Hampton's Figure Drawing Design and Invention. Amazing anatomy book. It's how I learned how to draw anatomy. I highly recommend looking at that, seeing how all the muscles connect. But, even though this is a more amateur piece, I still find it really fun. I dig, art is vibe, right? It's completely subjective. I like the vibe of this. I like how creepy the Hulk is. I like that you've gone for a non-traditional rendering style. But if we're talking about values and focus, if I zoom out, I can, obviously my eyes automatically go to that black background with the white lasers, but that's not where my eyes should be focused on. It should be focused on Hulk or Beta Ray Bill. So if you look, everything else is just washed out and turned completely gray. If I wanted to bring more focus into this, even though I enjoy what you're doing with the style here, you would have to have, you'd have to bring in some more white, especially on the face. If you want me to look at the face, probably more of a solid black on his hair, and then you really want to push the unimportant stuff into the darkness, but more focused on getting white on that face, white on Beta Ray Bill's face, so that when we zoom out, you can see there's more of a focus with the white against the gray. So my eye is going to have a better place to look. Also, zooming out this like this, most of this would probably be black to me in shadow. So now my brain even more so is looking at that white up there. That's the balance of using values in your piece to really draw your eye where it needs to go. I think that's something you need to work on as well. Next up, we have Jake Milley Art, who I've looked through your stuff. I think you're doing amazing stuff with storytelling and characters. You obviously, you've got a talent here. You're super close, I would say. You are very close. And honestly, I think the things that you need to work on are the things that I listed at the beginning of this. So let's take a look at your use of rule of thirds on this page. So looking here, it's not bad on the first panel that your focus is on him in the center of the panel. Like, that totally works. I'm totally fine with that. He's got enough black in him that he's the focus as well. I would remove the black from the windshields of the cars. That's completely unnecessary, and that will draw my eye in the wrong area. You've also got his face in the center up here, which is great. But here's where you've gone wrong. Is right here. And I will talk about everything else you've gone wrong with as well. So this head here, the explosion, as you can see, if it's rule of thirds, he would probably be extreme foreground, something like this. Maybe even with his head sticking out like this. And then I would have the focus of the explosion coming from here or something like that. And then my brain is reading the page like this, which is what you want to do. You want to do the Z through your page. Or the backwards S, which I don't know why people just call it that. Just call it a Z. So do something like that to break up your panels. Or if you want, I guess that makes the focus more on Deadpool. If you want the focus to be more on the explosion, then you can make Deadpool smaller. But here's the thing. What you're doing is what's called static cam. You're just pointing your camera pretty much straight on with all of your quote-unquote shots or your panel choices. And you need variety. You need bird's eye view, which is looking down at something. You need worm's eye view, which is looking up at something. You need forced perspective. Forced perspective is so important in comics. That's something I will list in my big rules as well, is you need stuff coming at you, because if everything is flat and on the same plane, then you've created a flat image. I mean, it'll look like hieroglyphics at that point. So with Deadpool here, I think if it was this panel, I actually think I would probably stick him in the middle. And while holding his thing, looking a bit kind of more like this shot here, but looking up a bit shocked after what's happened, because there's just been, I assume, a huge explosion behind him. But instead of being straight on, I would make it so this is worm's eye. So it's a bit more dynamic. Maybe even some of the buildings here in the background. If you look down here, I love this last shot because you're using a good balance of values. Though with Superman here, just put that eye right there. Where the rule of thirds intersect, and then this guy here, you could put right here. And it immediately makes it a more dynamic shot. The problem with this, though, is that this is very flat. The perspective is very strange of the car. I love the Superman in the foreground. This is really cool. It reminds me of Gleb. What's his name? Big Gleb. That's what I call him, because that's his handle on. So anyway, he's a famous comic book artist. That reminds me of Gleb. Love this. I think maybe you would, I don't know, have more of a car like looking down on it, like down on like a bird's eye view, and then a guy peeking out from here, just to make it a bit more interesting. So yeah, it's not bad stuff though. It's just it's coming across just a slightly flat. So let's go to the next page. Now I didn't choose everyone's pages. I chose 5 pages for everybody to keep it fair. Okay, so if you put the rule of thirds on this, you can see where we can easily make some corrections here. A lot of your work, like I said, right now is just placement of where you're actually putting your characters and where I'm supposed to be looking. So if we took Deadpool here. Hang on, let's cut him out. We took Deadpool here, made him bigger. We're thinking about foreground, middle ground, background. So I make him bigger, which means I'd have to move his hand over. I'd probably put his hand where the other intersection is. like so. And I'd make it bigger so it's more in the extreme foreground. It's a point. So it'd be something like that. And then Superman himself, I would... he's a bit hidden if he's just in the intersection there. And this is where comics you can break stuff. I think I would... Yeah, you could put something like this. Also, another thing you can think about is these intersection lines here. If it's a busy panel, I mean, when I'm lettering, I like to try to make sure my letters intersect in these places as well, because it's all just about balance. I mean, Superman is fine where he is. You know what? I just realized it. Here's how you do it. Boom. His chest symbol is where the cross is. So that's what we have loaded up there. So that immediately, to me personally, makes a way more dynamic panel. Because we have stuff going on in the extreme foreground and in the foreground. Love his black face. It really draws my eye to it. That's great stuff. So that should help fix that. Okay, moving on. If we take this top panel, we try and get the eyes to meet in the cross section. It will be more dynamic. So there we go. That's a more balanced image. And then again, like, all I'm really doing right now is moving your stuff around. I think this is supposed to be Batman or something here. You could have Batman in the cross section there. And I would maybe have, Superman probably in the cross section up here. And I would bring Deadpool more in the middle, even though I know you have them leaning in. This is comics, you can break these rules. So that's just a bit more balanced there. I mean, it's not the greatest shot. It's pretty flat, that you're, again, drawing in hieroglyphics here because you're just choosing a profile view of everything. It's not terrible. But this bottom panel is excellent, man. The anatomy's fun. The drawing's really cool. It doesn't feel flat. It's great. I love this bottom panel. It's good stuff. The other thing I would say is that these swords can be a bit bigger here. They kind of just look like bad 3D models. I would have the swords popping out of the panel as well, because this is comics and we can have some fun. But yeah, this is good stuff. I like this. And you've left more white here, which is what the other guy should be doing, and you could still add some renders in if you ever fancy doing a couple little renders. And I'll show that in black in a minute. Just because, I don't know, it just adds to it. It doesn't take that much, but it's totally a style thing. Also, I mean, if you really wanted to, it's not necessary, but you could really make him. You could make him bigger if you wanted to, popping over that other panel. Again, this is comics. Make it fun, make it thrilling. Just don't break the rules like that too much. Okay, let's moving on. Rule of thirds in there. Again, if you can just make your work so much clearer. I mean, you can even make yourself laugh by making Batman's crotch the point of focus. And then I think, so with this panel, what you want to do is, hang on, let's copy and paste this. Bring him more into the foreground, okay? Let's get a Superman grabbing him, his hands just here, pulling on it even more. He's turning and looking over his shoulder. And then Batman's more in the background there now. Like so. Much more dynamic panel. Moving on. I'm not a big fan of this shot here. It doesn't read well to me. Because especially with the next shot when he's completely in the air. you can kind of have... I mean, I would have Superman here with this one, and I would have Deadpool's face over here. Maybe his body going like this. I love that you brought the feet into the extreme... I mean, I would bring the feet even more in the extreme foreground like this. So his body is going like so. Deadpool's face is over here where the raw thirds are. The other legs like going over this way. I would push this arm back here down more. And maybe a hand or something like this up here. And then I'd have, I don't know, some stuff flying off him, whether it's a gun or a grenade or something like that. Just to show it. And then I would have Superman here with like his arm in the air. Or he's just thrown him like a baseballer, you know? And then what I would do for this middle panel instead is maybe have... Let's get some white so I'm not just drawing over it. You might be able to have him actually pulling on it. And Deadpool, like, reacting like, oh, crap. Something like that. Or maybe do that the other way. It's just the motion. I like motion of grabbing, pulling, throwing, you know? Because what you have right now is grabbing, throwing, thrown. Where I think the throw can happen with the throw. But yeah, push stuff into the extreme foreground here. Really push your figures as far as you can. And if it's not just, you know, it's not just like you don't have to do foreshortening. Other tricks are, you wouldn't do on this top panel, but, you know, you could have an object in front here just to add more depth and stuff like that. So that's that page. And then here's our final page. Let's do the layout here. Something... I'm not... Okay, so I think you're just saying this is an establishing shot, right? I'm not sure why you chose your establishing shot to be this particular view of this house. It's very uninteresting view of a house. If anything, do you need the outside view? Because this is also an establishing shot. You've established that he's in a house, and then you've established that he's now in the kitchen, even though we can see he's in the kitchen right here. So you could make this whole thing a panel, and the way you would establish it more is that you can have the actual window from outside, like we're looking into it, okay? That's an option, but I'm not going to say that that's exactly what to do, because it might call... You know, you're not the writer, so it might call for an establishing shot of a house and Clark in the kitchen. If so, let's get some balance here. You know, get the sky in there. Or if it's Metropolis, you want to see Metropolis in the background, though. I don't know what. Maybe it's the farm or something like that. Just this shot's not great. You know, going back to using values for focus. Let's just start with our most extreme values. So we start with white. Let's go to a point of view. Let's use right over here. All right, that's our most contrasting we can do. You probably want to leave a bit more room for talking. And we're going to do a bit of a bird's eye. Oh yeah, let's do this as well. Here is the mailbox that you had out in the front. Maybe it says like Kent on it or something like that. So that's in our extreme foreground, and then we have the kitchen there, the doors there of the house, and then what I would do is probably like a big sun here, and then a bunch of beautiful clouds or something like that. And then we would get some light in, etc. This all wouldn't, it all obviously wouldn't be solid black. I'm just using this so you could see it. This would be gray and stuff like that. That's just a way more of a dynamic establishing shot than a sort of quarter view of a house. It just makes it a bit more exciting. We're using middle ground, foreground, background. We're using values and we're using rule of thirds. It's just the go-to technique to make anything more interesting. So let's spice this up as well. This little girl down here is reaching for the sink. She should definitely be in the extreme foreground. Clark is in the middle, and I'll bump Clark up to the middle as well. So she should be like this. You know, the perspective of her should be like that. And Clark and his dog. I assume this is Clark, only because we had Superman pages somewhere else, but it may not be. Clark would be like here. And that would make it more interesting. I remember we talked about in the Discord about making backgrounds a bit more interesting, because you said yours felt like a bit flat. It's because I can see it's a 3D model and you're just following the perspective lines. Don't be married to them. Do like a round door here or something like that. These light fixtures, don't make them square. Make them round. Get some more organic shapes in there, or make them fans. You know, on top of the fridge here, have some barrels of food and open boxes and sacks of potatoes and stuff like that. Get this perspective broken a bit. You know, you got your mug here. Yeah, you see, like, I would add more utensils and stuff, and a dishcloth. If this is looking through the window, you know, you have the curtains as well to the actual place to frame everything, so you're really looking in to this shot. Just add more organic objects. Have a coat hanging in the background. Have a doormat. There's plenty of ways just to add extra stuff by just adding extra organic materials. This panel is way too flat. I love that you're trying to do a new perspective. It's just not reading the best. And I think it's because of this arm right here. It should be that her hand is here, big, in the extreme foreground, right? It's foreshortening. And since she's reaching up, that means her body's turned a bit. So it really means that her torso is like facing this way. And her hair, you have it just hanging down like gravity, but gravity's not going this way. Gravity's going this way, you see? Because we're looking down. So her hair would be back more and down. Pulling on the shirt here, and then I'd probably have a foot here. I love the dog being here. That's very fun. And then the other thing I would do in terms of making it work with the rule of thirds is you can either do a couple of things. You can have her in this point of interest and the dog in that point of interest down there. Or you could just have her straight in the center, like so. Again, nothing wrong with this panel. A guy reacting to stuff and looking at stuff. The other thing I would do is either put him in the center here, or I would have it more close-up. I'd probably do it a close-up because there's not much, you know, you want to range up your shots a bit here. So it'd be good to have this guy in close-up. And then this bottom panel here, I have the dog at this point of interest. And she should be, I'd say more in the panel there. Okay, so that's really like going over your stuff. It's good stuff. You're close. You're very close. A lot of your anatomy is great. I love the vibe of it. I would say that you should probably work on your hands. These fingers are a bit rubbish. Study up on hands. I like what you're doing with values. This is cool, especially if you can start using extreme foreground, middle ground, background more. That will really jazzify your work and make it look more dynamic. Again, there's a lot of fun stuff going on with the anatomy. I need to see more backgrounds from you. I'm seeing a lot of not too many backgrounds. And also, I see that you're too afraid to use values in your background. Like, these buildings, there's so much you can do to make these buildings more interesting. These are just following a perspective. And that's boring. Here, let me show you the most easiest thing you could do. My favorite thing to add in any city. A water tower. Oh, look at this beauty. So easy to draw as well. A water tower. What else do rooftops have? They have air conditioning units with pipes running out of them. They have pipes running down them and going down other different ways. There's buildings that have doorways that have little turns here. There's lots of pipes coming out of stuff. There's satellite things. There's some people have chairs set up with like little tables and things. Create little worlds, you know. This person might have an awning over their little rooftop thing because they're sitting out there with their chairs and they've got a different railing up there. Spice this up. Also, windows shouldn't just be squares. It's so easy just to put a top on it and two sides and then get a window in. Or you can do a round top on a window. That immediately adds a more dynamic shape. You can do the classic... This is a very New York, Brooklyn thing where it sticks out to the side. Go and study windows. Add different types of windows to your work. And don't do bricks for every little thing. You can just do some little bricks, but you definitely need something in here. Don't be afraid. Also, this motorway here looks strange. It would be a lot wider. And these cars, they look a bit flat. They need some more stuff to them. So yeah, definitely work on your backgrounds. That's definitely holding your art back. For sure. I know it's hard, but it's going to come to it. I mean, this piece is awesome here. That looks good. Yep, just do more extreme foregrounding, more rule thirds. Yeah, and try and find some variety. Variety in your shot choices. I think there's only one time you broke your shot choices, and it was right here to do a POV bird's eye view. More bird's eye view, more worm's eye view. Okay? All right, thank you, Jake. Up next and last, we have Andrew Rodriguez Art, who's got 5 pages here. So let's take a look at Andrew's work here. Let's put on the rule thirds here. So just to make this piece just ever so slightly better, just have this guy in the center of these rule of thirds. It's a nice even way where I'm looking directly into the piece. Let's see here. I like that there's black in that hole there, but he's got a lot of black on his jacket. So maybe... Oh. No, I guess we can still see it with black there. I don't know why the background's fully black. I don't know if it's stormy or anything. You could also have like some lightning or something coming down, just so our eyes, it's like you're using the lightning to point at where I'm supposed to be looking, you know? Maybe a big moon up here, or a huge moon. I do like a huge moon. Or even better, you know what my favorite thing to do is the spawn thing. When in doubt, moon it out. You got this cool person over here, so you could have the moon huge behind them, which is always a fun thing to do. But it's up to you. Here, with this piece, I would say that I'm not too sure where the lighting's coming from. It's obviously coming from above, but it's not super clear because of what I'm seeing down here. If it's coming from above, then this wouldn't need to have so many things. You keep some of the mud here a bit clear so we can see it. Maybe would this be more blacked out? Let me turn the blacks on for this. I'm trying to think. You can go bigger with the hole, really. Yeah, that's what you do. Go bigger with the hole, and then I see you've got a a shovel, I would do a shovel well in the foreground or something like that. Or, you know what, even better is in the foreground, maybe the head of another angel or something like that. Maybe facing him as well, so it'd be like the back of the hair or something like that. And the angel wings, that's a bit too big, but no, because we want the cross section to be the focus on the grave. So yeah, I'd have the grave more in black with, you know, maybe a couple of lines here, and I'd have more lines here because of the light. I would definitely make this pole bigger and more in the foreground, just to add depth, because there's not much extreme foreground going on here. I think I would have to have. Oh, I know. Have like a cross gravestone or something, just to get stuff in the foreground, and maybe like a tree coming over or something at the top here, just to get some stuff in the extreme foreground, because right now it is all just middle ground and background. Also, I don't like that the gravestones are all fully in perspective. It's a graveyard. I think that they should all, and it's an old graveyard, have them all in different perspectives to really help. I think I'd break this up just a little bit more, this hole. Yeah. But the figure's fun. He's very expressive. That looks good. I like the rendering on the legs. I'm not too sure about all this rendering on the angel. When you want to do like when it looks like it's a statue, you might want it to go more black, like a Frank Miller black and white more choice, but that's up to you. That might actually be a bit distracting though, so maybe more emphasis. Maybe I'd actually bring more of it into the light. So that should help break it up a little bit. I'd probably make this dark too, something like that. Yeah, that just spices it up a little bit. All right, moving on. Let's put the rule of thirds down and see what we're working with here. Okay, I've seen this page before. You shared it. Again, what I would do is, well, the perspective's wrong, first of all, in this one. The background buildings are strange. This section here is good. Nothing wrong with this. What I would do here is, in the foreground, I'd have a water tower, the world's favorite thing, or something in the foreground here. Maybe even a roof here, or something like that. You need stuff in the extreme foreground. Right now, this is all just middle ground and background. Also, this street is so empty. Like, it's... You might save yourself by not doing a street like this type of view, because you have to draw so much little stuff in here. So I'd probably do a different view altogether. Alright, these guys hanging around talking immediately. What stands out to me, to make life easier, is moving it over. So we have this guy cross-sectioning with this guy, because I assume that's who's talking to each other. And the last thing I would do with this panel is so that even though this guy's in front of him, he still feels like he's on the same plane, because you're not doing enough dynamic range of it. So get this guy a lot bigger on this panel, and now it feels immediately more dynamic. And I mean, you could even go even further than this, you know. Still, you can have him like here. You want the variety on the page. So stuff like that. This guy here, I think I would just have his face in there. You're not really having a close-up of anybody, really. except for the final panel. So I guess we want to focus more on the close-up because he's angry in the final panel. I still think he could be bigger, though. Like so. But the problem with the angle you've chosen, it looks, since he's entering this, this way, and you now have him on this side, you're breaking a rule here, where he shouldn't be facing this way, because this is the way these guys are facing. So it almost looks like he's talking to himself. So... oops, that's the wrong way. You'd have to have him facing this way, really. But I think I wouldn't... I would just get rid of this panel completely. And if I was going to redo it with this guy being excited, I'd vary my shut up. I'd probably do a worm's eye view. He's excited. He's got his hand up still. He's got his big old pompadour here. And then in the back, I would either not have a background or just a rooftop here or something like that. And some birds or something like that if I really wanted to spice it up. But yeah, and black jacket, black hair. The light's under him, so he'd probably have black under his hand. And I'd do something like that. This is a very flat drawing. There's no, again, they're just face on. You can have depth with three guys standing next to each other very easily. Just because they're three guys, you don't have to just shoot them straight on. You can have the one guy in the front cracking up, and then another guy like putting his hand on him, laughing, and another guy back here. Maybe even an extreme foreground hand of pointing at him and laughing at him. Just give me middle ground, foreground, background. Otherwise, it's just one plane. Now, the easiest thing I would do is this guy's clearly upset in the final panel. I think you're just drawing too much. I think what you should do to really put this home that this guy's upset is get in his freaking face. Let's see his face. You know, and then we probably have the speech bubbles up there, so we'll bring him down there. We want variety. Now, if you look at the page, there's so much more variety. There's depth, and it's more interesting. For me, personally. You can do whatever you like. Okay, next panel, or page. Let's put down the rule of thirds everywhere. Okay, so he's springing into action here. Again, I would not do a straight-on shot for somebody springing into action to fight a group of people. You would have someone... you could do so many things. You could have like a fist up here and the head down here as he's running into them here. You could have it over their shoulders where they're still laughing. Extreme close-up. Someone's still pointing at him. And in the center, he's coming in hot. And they would mostly be in shadow to really frame it. Anything in the extreme foreground is usually in shadow. You know, his little jacket or something like that. So he's running into the fight. which makes the punch way more impactful on the next one. And again, I think you could see what I would do with this one. Extreme foreground fist, where the crossing is. The guy's face down here. Being punched just so they cross over on the intersecting lines. Oh, look at this. Boom and boom. You did it. Congratulations. You did a natural rule of thirds. So that works absolutely fine. This panel, I think with the guy coming back with a punch, I like that you're breaking the border, but I think I would get a lot closer with this guy's face, spitting the stuff out, and the punch being bigger. Extreme foreground, get a huge fist going. So that's the guy, this is the guy's head here. This is this other guy's head. This is a fist, and that's the arm. So it's just a bit more, and since the hand is right next to the fist, I would probably have the cheeks like, and the mouth looking like, you know, it's just, the knuckle has made contact, so he's wincing in pain. You can see the skin is bulging up from it. And again, you've chosen a static shot here. If you're shooting an action movie, not many action movies are just shot like a musical. Like, I feel like you're drawing more of a stage play rather than directing a cinematic piece. So just think about that. Think about middle ground, foreground, and background. You know, you even just to make this more interesting, you could have a guy watching, you know, one of the other thugs in the foreground here, mostly in silhouette, maybe with a fist up or something like that. Maybe even cheering on or something like that. Just to break it up a bit, because you're choosing a lot of straight-on shots. I mean, even this final shot here is a straight-on. It's just like one plane. Even the carb is barely the background. It's still one plane. Rule of thirds is working here, though. He's here. He's basically here. Other guys are here. So, again, an easy way to fix this also is to put things just directly in the foreground to break it up. But he's on the floor. Okay, if I was going to redo this, I'd have it more that the angle's the worm's eye, and I'd have him. Yeah, he's been hit. His arm's on the floor. He's trying to pick himself back up. In the background is the guy looking over him. And then behind them, the people are all jumping out. This, I would do, you know, and that's me thinking about this. Spider-Man is in the foreground. Middle ground is Venom, and then background. I mean, I would even push Spidey even more here if you want to get more extreme. Not that I'm critiquing Todd McFarlane, telling him what to do. I'm talking about to make your drawing a bit more interesting. Again, quick fix for stuff like this. Just to get it all in the right grids. Have him more in the center there. This with the people kicking him. I really like the panel, like the vibe of it. Like, your storytelling is good. You have great storytelling. You just need to choose more dynamic shots. I would have way more of a focus on him and the pain on his face. You know, he is in pain. And then I would have the feet much bigger, all coming in, pointing at him like they're all kicking him at once. And maybe even have, that means that on the bottom panel here, I would have, why isn't this working? Oh, no, I don't have a pedal. This guy I probably have locked and loaded. My pet's not... Oh, that's because I have a selection going. Duh. Okay, finally, can I draw on this? Yep, I'd have this guy locked and loaded, ready for another kick to come in. Like he's about to stomp him again. That looks a bit messy, but I hope you're seeing what I'm trying to see. Just putting stuff more in the rule of thirds. But again, middle ground, foreground, background is your best friend. To bring dynamism... Oh, I can't even say it. Dynamism? Whatever. Again, looking at this stuff, you've chosen a straight-on shot, which is like the most boring way to do action. I love all the character work. I think the cartooning is great. I like all of the expressions. The story is very clear. You're very clear at storytelling. I'm sorry. I always forget I have to say nice things, because usually when I do portfolio reviews, I can come across as a bit mean. Love silhouette shots like this. Bing, 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 bing. Love it. This is great. You even have the rule of thirds working okay here, because silhouette shots, especially with multiple characters, is great. Just start having more dynamic. Have someone fighting in the foreground here. It's a fight. Let's get some action going. You know? Love that you've chosen forced perspective here. The only problem is that I feel like the hand should be bigger and more in the front. The forced perspective means that the arm's going to be shorter. You can't just draw an arm and then a bigger hand like you've done here, because then it doesn't actually look forced perspective. I mean, if this was just his regular hand up in the air, it would be like this. So that doesn't make sense. So we want to barely see this arm, right? That's because it's hidden behind this big hand here pointing. This is a fun shot, though. I like it. Love this guy's face. What a stupid face. And again, this face here, I'd probably put more in the middle, or I'd have his eyes like this. So I hope that helps, folks. Just to go over stuff again. Focus with values. Using blacks, whites, and grays to draw your eye to the attention that you want them to see. If you have too much of one or not enough of the other, it really throws off the balance of your piece. You want to immediately see clearly what you're trying to tell people. So keep that in mind. Background, middle ground, and extreme foreground. Break up your shots. Put people towards the quote-unquote camera and people put quote-unquote away from the camera. It really immediately makes your work look more dynamic. And finally, the rule of thirds is just a classic cinematography technique to put stuff where it needs to be. It works so well in comics because it means that the letterer knows where to put speech bubbles because you've left them so much space for it. So please use the rule of thirds. Now, the rule of thirds can easily be broken. You don't have to follow it. It's just, it should really help you, train you on how to be a bit more cinematic with your work. Okay, thank you all very much for watching. I hope that helped. Please let me know in the Discord if it definitely helped or not. If you want your portfolio reviewed by me, you can go to patreon.com/willrobson, where I will join the Discord where I can review your portfolio and help your work. And please check out my next issue of Outbreaks. As you saw through this, Cormac was emailing it to me. So I'm excited to see what he's been doing with that. And please check out Mobster Mash when it comes out. These are the codes so that you can go to the pre-launch pages for when they launch. Outbreaks launches April 3rd and Mobster Mash launches October 1st. Okay, thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the next portfolio review.